M-A-S-S, you know we always come to steal the show.
Hello, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for making this event, for coming, for being great, for being a young lady, for being all the things amazing and great during Women's History Month 2023. Once again, I want to bring greetings and thank you all so much for coming out to our first annual LeadHERship Youth Summit. This is something that we were really adamant about making sure that this happened for everyone. There's been a lot of focus on a lot of different things, but we know that when you put your arms and wrap your arms around our young ladies, that, you know, you can make mountains move. And we believe that, especially in Baltimore City. So I hope you all enjoyed yourself. Did y'all have a good time? Did y'all enjoy yourselves? Did you eat your food? Y'all didn't have to pay for it. You didn't get school lunch today. It's Friday. What y'all, come on, y'all had some food and everything. Got some jackets. So I really appreciate everyone coming out. The Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, again, really does appreciate you all coming here and being here. I wanted to give you two small, quick little tips, and then we can sort of get the rest of our afternoon started. First is please double check, triple check. Tell your neighbor. Say, neighbor. Is your phone on silent? Real quick, just going on and double check that. We just want to make sure your phone is on silent. We don't want to have Lil Uzi Vert coming through while we're recording on your ringtone. Jesus. All right. Thank you. And then secondly, if you need to, this is the opportunity, is that anyone, if you can't make it through we have about 35 minutes in between each panel. So if you have to use the restroom, I'm going to say do that literally right in this very second, or you're going to have to wait till we take a small break in between our panelists. Okay? Because again, we are recording. I want you to be mindful of where the cameras are. We have cameras here. We have a camera right here. We have a camera over here. And there's a sneaky link camera back here, okay? So I just want you all to be mindful of where the cameras are. And then we have a camera right here in the middle, right dead center. So again, just being mindful of where you're walking and everything. We cannot get up and walk once we have started. We cannot get up and walk once we've started. Praise God. See, that's why you got to do things like that, all right? The ministry of bathroom. Okay. So we're going to get started with our first set of panelists. Again, we're recording, so just try to keep, just stay focused. We hope that you all get a lot of great information from this. But before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office for Children and Family Success, and then we're going to go ahead and get started, ladies, okay? Thank you. So I'm Dr. Deborah Y. Brooks. If you can come up, please.
Thank you, Noelle. So first, I just want to applaud all of our young ladies. Can we give them a round of applause, please? All of our young ladies. This is our first annual LeadHERship Summit. This will not be our last. We are so excited. This is something we really wanted to do, is to celebrate our young ladies. And so I just want to thank all of you all for coming out. I want to thank all of our chaperones for being here as well and supporting this. I want to really, can we give Noelle a round of applause for pulling this together, and her team for really pulling this together. And I just want you all to know how important you are to us, how important you are to Baltimore City. And so we want to celebrate you. We have a phenomenal panel here that's going to be here to be able to talk to you all, actually, too. Make sure you ask questions. Make sure that you speak your truth to power today, and make sure that you all let us know what we can do to continue to celebrate you and to do what we need to do to make you all feel empowered. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic back over to Miss Noelle. I don't know where Miss Noelle just went. Okay, well, she was coming back. Okay. So, again, we just want to make sure that we have provided opportunities for you all to know what resources we have available for you here in Baltimore City, also as well as opportunities for you all to have greater access, and also for you all to come to us and let us know what it is that you still need, because it's about providing you all with access, opportunities, resources, so you can be your great and best self. So again, I'm going to be turning this over because without further ado, we want to make sure that we have enough time for our panelists to be able to provide you all with information and for you to be able to ask questions. So sit back, enjoy, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
All right, we need a little bit of juice and excitement up in here. Everybody put your hands together for our moderator, our panel, Miss Rhonda McClendon. Thank you. Come on out, Rhonda. Miss Rhonda. Rhonda is going to take it right here, Rhonda. Right here, you good. Yeah, there's a special chair. All right, so Rhonda is going to be our moderator for our panel, and we're going to bring out our guests. All right, we're going to have our first panel come up, and then I'm going to let Rhonda take over. I'm going to get rid of this mic. Thank you all again. My phone's on silent, and we're going to get started. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any in here, I don't want to exclude anybody. I'm so sorry. Happy Friday. Happy day off from school. Can we get some claps for that? Right? I'm not in school anymore, but I know the feeling. It does not go away. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I think back to when I was your age, and man, we were so busy and certainly did a lot of things, but I don't remember anything this beautiful and this thoughtful being organized for girls my age and my peers so that we can come in, one, and have camaraderie with each other, which I know you tend to do that a lot in school, but to also kind of network and get to hear from people who you will become. You know, you are, in fact, them just younger. And so I'm looking forward to having the conversation with these beautiful ladies today. Yes, if you could give them a hand clap as they come out to the stage. Please welcome Carolyn Gray, Mrs. Jody Davis, Shy Waters, Mrs. Crystal Leonard, and Justine Smith. So good to see you, ladies. Looking gorgeous, too, right? Ooh, ain't nothing like black women looking good now. Nothing like it. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm going to just open the panel with a question really for all of you, so whomever wants to take it, please do. All of you are Baltimoreans, as am I. And there's such a sense of pride that comes with that, and I know some of you probably experience it. Someone asks you, where are you from? And you say, I'm from Baltimore. And they're like, oh, the place with from The Wire? Where they kill all the people? You know, it's always usually a negative response. I want to understand kind of how you combat that, how you let your pride for your city shine when people kind of give you that feedback that it's a negative place to be from. And your mics are right next to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jody Davis, and I would say in Baltimore, there's so many with gifts and talents and so much positive things to talk about. We just need to talk about it more. The negative goes viral. Let's make the positive go viral, because there's lots of positive that's happening here.
Personally, I just tell them the story of my upbringing. You know, my grandmother lived on North Avenue, and, you know, I was experiencing marches with my father, who's an editorial and political photographer, and I tell them about all the things I saw growing up, and it wasn't just The Wire. It's a cool show, great, but it's not all that we are. So I love to teach them about my experiences, and that's how I kind of go around that, because I get that a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
I would chime in and piggyback off what you're saying. It's all about kind of finding your tribe and drawing closer to the things that are more positive that you radiate with, and not focusing on the negative, because that's so easy to focus on. So I know for me early on, my mom would put me in activities and I wouldn't want to do them. And she would be like, you got to finish it. You got to see it through. And I would encourage you all to do that. If you do anything, finish it through. It builds a certain kind of character in you. And then you'll start to connect with people as you start to. You being here today is just a reflection of you being on the right path. So that's what I would say about that.
I think for me, I normally say that although we have mess, we have a lot of magic as well. So being a licensed realtor in Maryland and living in Baltimore and loving in Baltimore, you know, they don't understand, we have rooftops, great restaurants. We have some of the best restaurants, in my opinion. I'm biased, better than DC. I'm not driving there. We have things, activities, and so much potential that other cities are buying into now.
And I would just say, just live by example. So I don't really prove to people or feel the need to like be like, oh, Baltimore is not that bad. I'll just be like, I mean, it's cool, you know. But when they look at me and see how I act and see, you know, how I behave and how I have manners and like I'm not ignorant, you know what I mean? Then they're like, oh, okay, Baltimore, it's not just like ghetto, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk and shift into dreaming. I'm sure that all of you were and probably still are dreamers, as am I. I think back to when I was a little girl, I just knew I was going to be a river dancer. If you don't know what that is, look it up, and you'll see why that did not make sense for me. But God had bigger plans for me. But dreaming was an integral part of my life because it ultimately led me to what I do today. And I still, as an almost 40-year-old woman, dream about what's going to happen next, what's going to happen for my friends and my family. So, Justine, I want to talk to you about when your dream for your brand, and I obviously want you to share what your brand is with the room, but being in the beauty brand and Black women, we are so particular about our crown, our hair, about our look. As I said, it's nothing like the way women come out looking beautiful. I want to talk about when you remember having that dream and how you kind of manifested and saw it through.
I think it was, it started from a young age. So like I grew up, I wasn't able to get my hair done. We didn't have any money. And so I used to do my own ponytails, like in elementary school. I used to do my own braids. Then I started doing like my friend's hair. And I would honestly say it's my best friend who kind of pushed me in that direction because she would be like, oh, Justine can do your hair. And I'll be like, no, I can't. Like, she's like, yes, you can. And so I come from a family of like professional, you know, like therapists, nurses. My granddad was a politician. So it never was like, to me, I felt like hairdressing wasn't a real career. And then I had a conversation with my granddad because I felt like I was disappointing him. I went to Howard for a little bit, and I just hated it. And I was like, I had the conversation with him, like, I just really don't like college, you know? And college is great, but find your passion. And he pushed me. He was like, you know what? Hairdressing is a real profession. You know, not only do you have a natural God-given talent, but you're also a businesswoman. You know what I mean? You also have to market. You also have to do your finances. Like, it's a respectable career. And so once he said that, it, like, lit a light bulb in my head. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. And my brand is L Extensions. I specialize in extensions. And like you said, Black women are very particular. I am of mixed race. So a lot of times people don't know that I'm Black. So when they come to see me, they're like, ugh, what is this girl? She's about to mess me up. Like, you know what I mean? But, you know.
I mean, it's a deep relationship.
It is a
deep relationship we have with our
relationship.
hair and then those who care for it.
Right, it is. And so, like, I just live by example in every single thing that I do. I have a daughter. You know, I have a son, and I'm always just being respectful. I really relate to people, and as you get to know people in your chair, you know, your work proves itself, your character proves itself, so you really I don't feel the need to have to, you know, go above and beyond to prove anything. I just do what I do, and then people will see themselves.
Absolutely. Shy, I want to go to you because you, too, are in the beauty business, and you know, I'm sure a lot of us have that experience that when we decide to be creative, we were raised by people who didn't necessarily believe that that was a real job. Today, I think for you ladies, it's so different because you see that, I mean, you can make millions of dollars being a YouTuber, a TikToker, all these creative things that when I was a little girl, that was not, I remember when we got internet, y'all. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. But Shy, I want to talk about that transition for you as well. You have done so many wonderful things. Your salon is absolutely stunning.
Thank you so much.
And I know that you have a very special announcement today. And this is really about how your career can lead into a growth pattern that allows you to give back. So talk to me about your program and just kind of your process as you've grown as a stylist and an entrepreneur.
Okay. So the name of my salon is Shy Hair Studio. And just a quick backstory on that. Originally, I called it like Studio 1745. And I was like struggling with rebranding. This was years ago. And a friend of mine was like, why don't you just name it after you? Like, name your salon after you so that whatever you do, it's your name behind your vision and it won't be clouded. And so after a couple conversations, you know, you got to get those motivational ones sometimes, I went with it. And I originally was a first grade teacher at City Springs Elementary Middle School a few years back, and I loved it. I loved teaching. And I always had a desire to like mentor and work with people. And I was like, I'm going to be a life coach, and I'm going to be this. And I just was like, but I love fashion and I love beauty. How can I like merge the two? So I started doing hair like in my basement of my house. And a friend of mine that's here today reminded me of it. And it's such like a full circle moment to have people be like, I remember where you started and where you're going. And I wanted the opportunity to give a young lady that opportunity as well. So I'm starting an apprenticeship program. And luckily, the Department of Labor has changed it. It used to be only one apprentice per stylist. And they recently, like earlier this year, they're now allowing 2 apprentices, not only to just a senior cosmetologist, which I am, a stylist now that has been working in the field for more than 2 years can also take 2 apprentices. And that is such a joy. And I think that comes from they realize that cosmetology school is expensive. Sometimes it's a hassle for some students to do. And it's nothing like real experience firsthand, which is what I want to offer. I want to teach the students, whoever decides to sign up, the professionalism, the business that goes behind it, the hard work, the long days, and you get to see it working directly with me. The apprenticeship program is a 2-year program, as mandated by the state of Maryland, and during that whole program, you'll just be working with me side by side. And then I also will give you an opportunity before you make that investment to sign up for cosmetology school. If you're working with me for 3 months or 6 months, and you say, Miss Shy, I'm not feeling this, I thought I wanted to do it, you have that opportunity to walk away and not be stuck with a $20,000, $30,000 loan, because once you start cosmetology school, that's it. They want their money. And I've seen it happen so many times, and I want to give someone who's like, I want to try it, but I'm not too sure, I want to open the doors for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So I just want to get a show of hands. How many young ladies in here are thinking about when you become of age, moving to a different city, okay, going to a college in a different place? How many hands? It's like more than half of the room. So that leads me to Carolyn, who is a fashion enthusiast and an entrepreneur, a Baltimore girl who no longer lives here, and she essentially had to stretch her wings in order to grow. And so I want you to talk a bit about that, but my very specific question to you is, you know, what was that process like? You were a teenager when you decided to leave Baltimore and go to a city that they say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, which is New York. I personally feel that way about Baltimore as well, that Baltimore gives you a certain grit and a certain hustle and a certain grind where you can take that into any city and win. So talk to me about, one, the decision, what led to it, and what joys and what successes you had to inspire the young ladies who, too, are looking to spread their wings and take their careers to a different city.
Yeah. Well, it's dope. And I think whoever is raising their hand, I think this is going to be a great journey for you. I think you'll always know in the pit of your stomach that you want to go somewhere else. And it doesn't mean that you love Baltimore or your family any less. It just means you want to explore. So I knew I've always had that in my spirit. And I think when I was in school, in high school specifically, I was trying everything. I was in drama. I was playing basketball. I was doing this, the yearbook, everything. Because I just wanted to try anything I can get my hands on to see how it made me feel. And I had 2 parents who were very supportive in any big idea that I had. So when it came time for me to figure out what schools I'm going to apply to, I looked to my teachers, honestly. And one in particular, my art teacher, she was like, you always like to dress up, and anytime you're painting a fashion item. Why don't you look into Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City? I had never heard of it. And I said, okay, I'll look into it. And it was the only school I had applied to because I said, if I don't get into anything else, I'll figure it out afterwards, right? So I knew that I wanted to go there because Miss Gill my art teacher kind of put that seed in me. But I think what really drove me was everything that, you know, felt uncomfortable at any time, and me just understanding there were little nuggets. And anytime I was someplace that I was unsure about something, you know, and growing up with a father who is a photographer, you know, growing up in his studio and seeing how he did his business, it made me realize that there is more. I can attain anything. I could put my mind to it. Anything can happen. So I feel like between seeing how my father's an entrepreneur, listening to my teachers, trying anything that was available for me to try at school or outside of school, it gave me the confidence and some tools that I needed to apply myself once I got there. Because when I got there, it got serious, really serious. And I had that grit in me, though. I grew up in the county, so my dad was a little nervous. He was like, you didn't grow up in the city, so I don't know how this is going to look. But as soon as I got there, it clicked, because everything that I had pulled as my tool activated in that moment.
It is so important to have a healthy support system. It's so beautiful that you had two parents who encouraged you just by way of saying you can do this, but also by being an example, as Justine talked about earlier, being a living example of what you can do. That support system is crucial. It kind of leads me to you, Crystal. Just the other day, you shared something very vulnerable on social media about kind of your structure as a child and your two-parent household that wasn't a two-parent household, and how difficult that has been, and that you're kind of launching into this next level in your life. And you've grown so much. I've known you for so many years. She's amazing. She's amazingly successful as well. But I want to talk about the downside, if you will, for the girls in the room who may have grew up in a household more like mine, where my mom was there, but my dad was not. I did not have that support to go and leave a city. In fact, leave this city. In fact, I wanted to go to college in another city, and my mother was like, oh, no, ma'am, you got to stay here. You got to be close. I'm scared. It wasn't because she didn't believe in me. She was too scared to let me go too far from her. And so, Crystal, I want to understand from you, one, the vulnerability in that post is so real. It's so real to think about, I am doing amazing things, but the exact people who I want to be here to see it aren't here to see it. How do you push through that? How do you encourage the ladies in the room who may have lost a parent or may have a parent that's outside of the household?
Yeah, so to shed some light, we had to share on social media this post, and I'm like, I was just driving, and I wanted to call my mother, and if I cried, don't tell the people that you saw me cry. But
tears are good for your skin.
Yeah,
okay.
So the biggest thing, it has to go to your childhood, right? I have to tell you my story for it all to make sense. So I lost my mom at 9, and my father was incarcerated from 3 to 21. So I was raised by my grandparents. So for me, the confidence that was brewing, it wasn't a lack of support because I came from a very loving family. But a child, sometimes you just want to look in the crowd, and whatever you're doing, I don't care if you're dancing, if you're swimming, if you got a certificate from school, you want somebody in the stands for you. And sometimes that person wasn't there. So something clicked. And it was like, okay, when I was going through school, it was like, you know what? And it was me. I don't know, are you guys familiar with Insecure, Issa Rae? It was me, that girl in the mirror. I was like, oh, baby, you a star. So what I noticed was I built up that confidence, and I was like, you know what? Even if they're not here, you're going to be a magnet for other people, and people are going to come back for you, and you're going to show up as this magnet, energetic. So what happens is, because you have that lack of support, it just comes in a different form. It comes in a different form. It's not a lack. It's something magical within you that people will gravitate towards you like they already met you, but they don't know why. It's a form of empowerment where I don't have to tell you my story unless I want to, and that's my power. I lied a lot. I told people that my dad was away for work in certain rooms, and I told my dad that he was away for a little while in certain rooms, and they understood what I meant. So in your magic, and I don't want to gravitate towards the question, but you already have everything that you need to do exactly what you want to do. And sometimes throughout your path, those things are going to change. I wanted to be a life coach at 15, get that. And I didn't know anything about life, so we quit that. I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. I walked in the room, I hated science, had to quit that. And so telling my grandmother that I wanted to be a realtor at 17, and then she forces me to go to college, it was fine because I knew that college was a place where I could reinvent, just to come back full circle and be the person that sells those connections their homes. So there's power in your journey and there's confidence in your mess. So just make it magical.
I so agree with that. I saw that there is not lack. What the first word I thought about was transfer. There's not lack. You may, at a certain age, want it from where you want it from. But once you get a little older, you live life a little bit, you realize that the support is what really matters. Who is giving it to you is not always the most important. I have such a wealth of people in my life who continue to hold me up, fight for me when I don't want to fight anymore, walk for me and carry me when I'm tired and exhausted. It's taken me to Mrs. Jody Davis, who is, I'm sure, have you all heard the term multi-hyphenate? Like, that means you doing this, that, and that. Mrs. Jody Davis is a this, that, and that type of woman. I have been in circles with you for so many years as a absolutely stunning designer. You recently designed a beautiful, beautiful white ensemble for Maryland's first Black First Lady, to the Governor Wes Moore. It was a beautiful look, and I just want to understand from you, is that even a dream that you dreamt up for yourself as a little girl? And talk to me a bit just about Jody Davis Designs in general and kind of what makes that fun, what you love about fashion, and what's next for you.
Well, I will say to all of you young ladies, when I started out in high school, when I graduated from high school, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. But in high school, I always loved fashion. I always loved dressing. And after I graduated, I went to apply at veterinarian school. But the dog that I had at the time, he got sick. His eyes turned the color of the sky blue. And I started running from him. And I said, that was God's way right at that very moment to say that that is not your calling. Veterinarian is not your calling. And so that summer, I started just designing in my bedroom because my mom was really strict. She didn't let us run up and down the streets with other kids and that type of thing. So I was being defiant, and I made myself stay. So in my mind, I'm going to stay in the room. I'm going to sew every day, all day, or whatever the case is. So much so that my mom was like, "Okay, it's time for you to go outside." And I said, "Nope, you didn't want me to go outside, so I'm staying inside." But that time helped me to start designing, and so I started out with just cutting out a hole for your head, 2 holes for your arm and your body, just squares. I would go to the Goodwill. I bought I remember this beautiful yellow linen tablecloth that I bought, and I was able to make a top and a skirt out of the linen tablecloth, and I put the ruffles from the edges on the dress and all those things. And then I started getting compliments from family and friends, and I'm thinking, oh, they're being nice. But over time, I started getting compliments from people that I didn't know. I went to work at the government for 7 years, and it took me 7 years to realize what I looked at as a hobby, designing clothes, was actually my gift from God. And then I decided that I wanted to apply at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And back then, we didn't have the internet. You know, you had to send your application in through the mail. You had to wait for the response to come back. I got the response back, and they invited me to come for an interview. In the interview, you had to show 3 garments, and then you had to show 3 sketches. So my garments were pretty good because I had been sewing for a while, but my sketches were horrible. So the counselor that I had at the time, she suggested you take 2 classes in New York City, your first 2 draping classes, and you take 2 classes in Baltimore, your art classes. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to afford to go to New York every weekend and then take classes in Baltimore? But as God made a way, he made a way. I was able to take the 2 classes in New York for that first semester and the 2 classes here in Baltimore. And I always say, as fate would have it, I got the same counselor. When I went back here to go for the second interview. And when I went for my second interview, I told her, you suggested I take these 2 classes in Baltimore, and I take the 2 classes at FIT. I got A's in all 4 classes, and she said, I don't need to see your portfolio because your determination shows that you wanted to be here. So I was able to get accepted at FIT, graduated with a degree in both fashion and accessory design. But after being in New York for 4 years in school, I was burnt out, so I moved to the Washington, D.C. area. And when I got to Washington, I started working at Neiman Marcus, the luxury design, department store. I worked there for 7 years. And the boss that I had at the time, she said, at this point, either you're going to quit or I'm going to fire you because you're too talented to keep selling somebody else's clothes. You need to be creating your line to sell on the sales floor. So that was the kick that I needed to go out there and start designing my collection full time. But then 2 years into that, 9/11 hit, so business dried up, and I had to figure out another way. So I had to pivot, and my pivot was going into the mortgage industry. And after 7 years, the mortgage industry crashed. So I had to go figure out what is my next. And so
the world was conspiring to make sure you were a designer. Right. Literally. Am I lying? Like everything was happening to push you back to do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So after the mortgage industry crashed, I went back into fashion. And during my most challenging time financially, my husband has a men's boutique, and one of his vendors was in town. And so the vendor, he came in town, we went out to breakfast, we went out to lunch, and then he was saying, Kevin said that you design clothing. And I said, yes, I do. He said, can I see a couple of things? And I find that putting the clothes on makes all the difference. So I started showing him pieces, and then I said, let me try some stuff on. So I started trying the pieces on, and he said, who's the pattern maker? I'm the pattern maker. Who's the sample maker? I'm the sample maker. Who's the fit model? I'm the fit model. Who's the sales rep? I'm the sales rep. Who's the marketing? I'm the marketing. And he said, you are 90% ahead of most people that want to go in the industry. So he invited me to fly out to California, which I did, and he helped me to learn the skill of designing and manufacturing your first collection. So I designed and manufactured my first collection out in California. My boutique is in downtown Baltimore. And so I moved into the boutique in September, and my first collection came March of the next year. And so that's how I started designing and manufacturing. And so full circle moment, it has, I built a client base of women, not just here locally, but nationally. People always ask, who are you designing for? And, you know, they always want to know what celebrities or that case. But I say all of my clients are celebrities because all of them are supporting me, and all of them are buying dresses and keeping me in business. So I'm thankful. But the big craze and hoopla now is because I designed that look for our new First Lady, Governor's wife, Dawn Moore. And I would say when we talked about it, the First Lady called, her team called, and we set up a consultation, and she came in, and she talked about how she wanted to look and the color that she wanted. And so she gave the thought to me, like, you come up with design. You design however you're feeling. So I made the pattern, and so when I say I make my pattern, so I have a dress form, and I drape all of my first patterns on my dress form so I can get the fit right, which makes a big difference. So I designed it. She came in for a fitting, and for the fitting, it wasn't the actual fabric, but she loved it. I had to just do a couple of tweaks. And then when I finished the final garment in that beautiful lightweight cashmere and the jersey that I did underneath, her eyes lit up, and I was excited because she was excited. Yeah. And even during that time, she called me and commissioned me to design the look for their daughter, Mia. So that blue dress and coat and that hat, I designed that piece as well. Wow. And I would tell you I was a little afraid because I don't do stuff for the younger generation, getting the sizing right. But when Mia tried her piece on and started spinning and dancing in the mirror, that's always my indication that the client loves the look. So I'm just happy to be using my gifts and talents. And just for all of you ladies out there, there's something that's in you that you want to do. At this point, you're not really sure of what it is, but just follow your passion. There'll be folks that'll tell you that you can't, that you won't, but you got to tell yourself that you can and you will. And then your parents or family members may be afraid. They may want you to succeed, but they're afraid to let you go. They're afraid to let you out of their sight. But you have to take that step and assure them that you're going to do the right thing and that you're on the right path, and then you'll gain that support from all of those that are behind you.
What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. Two of the things that I really took from that is all of the conspiring. So much of the world and the universe, the people in your space were pushing you and pushing you to stay. I love it that your boss said, you're either going to quit or I'm going to fire you. You don't have to make a decision. You can leave on your own or I'm going to get you out of here. Because for someone to see you, that is so important, to be seen for who you really are and what you really want to do. So thank you for sharing that. We are going to wrap this panel. These ladies, you have been incredible. You've been amazing. All of your success is such an inspiration, not just to me, but I'm sure to so many of you. Thank you for being a dreamer. Thank you for being a lead her. We appreciate you. Let's give them a round of applause. So we are going to take just a quick break. We're going to switch out. We have another panel coming right up. So thank you guys for sticking around with us. Welcome, Charmonique, writer and career coach. Thea Washington, wherever you like, who's casting director, producer. Jessie Morgan, athletic director. And Casey Zellers, who is a sergeant and a logistics coordinator and so many more things. So I'm going to give them their mics to introduce themselves. Charmonique, starting with you.
Of course, I would be the first one in line. Hi, everybody. My name is Charmonique Anderson. I am a career coach. I own a professional development firm. So I help professionals of all ages, industries, navigate their job search, be competitive in their job search, negotiate the money that they need, negotiate the money that they deserve, negotiate the money that they want, navigate higher education, gain admissions into graduate school, admissions essays, things like that. I also have youth programming where I help guys like you through workshops and one-on-one interview coaching and understanding how to sell yourself in interviews and networking and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thea?
Hey, how y'all doing? Good? Anybody went to City? Nobody? Okay, so I wore this for y'all, because I went to City, but I'm Thea Washington. I'm a casting director in television and film. I've worked on projects for Disney, HBO, all types of things, and I'm very passionate about getting people of color in front of the camera and behind the camera and changing our narrative. So that's me. Hey.
Hi, I'm Jessie Morgan. I'm proudly from West Baltimore. I am an athletic director at an all-girls boarding school in Baltimore County currently, but I've made a career in athletics mostly through the sport of lacrosse. I've traveled all over the world, coaching clinics, camps for kids, and I've made a career out of athletics, not just lacrosse, but just motivating young women to pursue athletics and to try to utilize it as a tool to get maybe to higher education or to a prep school or different opportunities through athletics. So I love all things sports. I'm a huge Ravens fan. I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm only 5'5". I thought I was going to be like in the WNBA, so I chose lacrosse, or lacrosse chose me, and I'm an example of what you can do in athletics. You know, it can take you to many different places, so it's me.
And capping it off, I am Sergeant Zellers, Casey Zellers. I go by Casey. I am a police sergeant with the police department, and I specialize in special events and logistical planning for all of our major events that take place in the city. That's one hat, and the other hat, I am an entrepreneur in that same special event space on the private side for my private business as well.
Lovely. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So when I looked at the name of the event for today, LeadHERship, I kind of broke that down into those three words. How many of you are told on a regular basis, don't be a follower, be a leader, right? You hear that all the time. You hear that all the time. I'll tell you, I'm not saying it's not true, but adulting will teach you that in order to be a really great leader, you have to know how to follow, okay? So being a leader, you cannot do it without understanding the importance of that. So I want to open that question really to whomever wants to answer it. You share a time where it was really important for you to be a mentee or a follower to someone that has now led you into this position of leadership in your career.
I guess I'll start it off. The biggest thing for me in being a follower first is to be a professional student. I was blessed to have a mentor, and I always preach to everybody, get a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentor, because you don't know what you don't know. I look pretty young. Everybody thinks, oh, how is she a cop? She about 14. So when I walk into rooms and spaces, a lot of times I'm not seen because of that. And one of the things that my mentor was able to tell me, you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything for half the people that's in the room. But you have a gift, and your gift will make space for you. So in that, I said, let me pause, let me stop. This guy knows a lot. I want to know what he knows. I want the connections that he has. And I had to stop and be a professional student and soak it all in. And some lessons don't really seem relevant in what you think your career path is or what you think your gift is. But I am a strong testament that in being a professional student and being a follower, you learn so many lessons that come back full circle and smack you in the face one day. For me, I got a lot of no's in my career field, 9 no's to be exact, before I actually landed in special events and to be the supervisor of a special event space. All those no's prepared me and gave me a drive like no other. So once I had the opportunity, okay, I got my mentor. He's like the GOAT of special events. And I just sat back in his shadow and learned and let him pour into me and pour into me and pour into me. And then I started to shine. And once I got into that space and I had that opportunity, it's gas on, all pressure. But you have to start out as a good student because you don't know what you don't know.
Thank you so much for that. I think about as a little girl, I got in some trouble here and there. I was a pretty quiet kid, and so sometimes that leads to having an idle mind and just getting really busy with things. I'm sure none of you can relate because you all look like angels. But I would love to know if anyone on the panel, when you were a teen or a young lady, what kind of trouble did you get into, and how did that lesson, whatever lesson came from that trouble that you got into, has really helped put you on this trajectory, has really helped show you that even with that bump or those bumps in the road, I can still overcome and I can still be great? Thea?
Okay, I'm Thea again. I went to City, and unlike you all, I was a horrible teen, terrible. It was so bad that my first year at City, I got invited to leave. And then I had to go to...
I love the way you worded that, invited to leave.
Yeah, they were like, no. And I went to a different school, Cherry Hill, Southside Academy of Environmental Science. And I was like, I'm not that bad. But I came back. And I eventually graduated from City. But one thing about it is, like, sometimes teachers don't always give you a second chance, because if people say that you're bad and you try to recreate yourself, they still hold you to what another teacher said, or they hold you to your past and things like that. And, you know, I was terrible, but guess what? You can decide to turn it around, be a great person, figure out your life. You don't have to be an A+ student. I was not. And you can make your life what you want it to be. And you can change things around. Sometimes teachers will encourage you, and sometimes they may not see it. But just, you have to believe it, you have to see it, and you have to know what you want to do. And even if you don't know, you have access to the internet and things like that. Like, dream and dream big. And you can change any day if you decide to and want to. And I did, so you can too. Yep, that's it.
Right. So Charmonique, I was chatting with you backstage, and you are so passionate about what you do. You are a writer and a career coach. You professionally develop, as you shared with us. And I know there's some high school age girls here in the room. And I thought about
just the other day, it was Equal Pay Day. And as you all may or may not know, there is still a gap. While we're closing it, there is still a gap. Women are only making 84 cents on the dollar to most men, and that's full-time working women. Part-time working women, which is probably, if you all do have little jobs, probably part-time jobs, you're making even less, 77 cents for the dollar for the man. Yeah, so I know that there's so much that needs to be done from a legislative standpoint to change that, but what can you give the young ladies in the audience as advice to kind of not only know your worth, because I know you hear that a lot, but the challenge becomes demanding your worth and making sure that that can't be challenged. How do you encourage, or how can you encourage them to know and demand their worth?
So we always hear, and as cliche as it may sound, know your worth, right? Okay, but how do I know my worth? How do I determine my worth? How do I calculate my worth? What is my value? What do I bring to the table, right? So to answer your question about the equal pay and closing that gap, we have to show up as our best selves in every room that we walk into, at every space that we enter, just to have a competitive advantage against men. So what that looks like is making sure that we can tap in and articulate our skills and articulate our strengths, whatever they may be. We should be able to talk about them with confidence. We should be able to talk about it with anybody, whether it's you, whether it's my son, whether it's anybody, right? We should be able to explain what we bring to the table, and that's the first step. And when you guys get older and become professionals and start writing your first resumes and cover letters and really starting to apply for those big girl jobs, it's up to you to show people your worth. You have to make it super crystal clear for them on paper. And what does that look like in real practice? It looks like sharing your lived experiences, sharing what makes you unique. Even though we could all do the same job, we don't all do the same job, but even if we did all do the same job, we do not do the same job in the same way. I have a unique skill set. She has a unique skill set. Everybody has something that they bring to the table. I'm a great writer, right? I'm not great at math. I understand my strong suits, and I have capitalized on them, and I know how to talk about it nonstop. I have my elevator pitch down pat, right? So what that looks like is understanding and creating your elevator pitch. Making sure your resume is showing, exactly who you are, where you've been, putting numbers in there, understanding, the experience that you bring to the table. Okay, you're a student, and 9 times out of 10 students say, oh, I'm just a student. No, you're not just a student. You're doing so much. It takes a lot to be in school. It's hard. It's not easy. Those are all lived experiences that you can capitalize on and bring to the table. Let's say you guys are in clubs or organizations. Let's say you guys are on step squad or cheer, or you might play basketball, or you might play lacrosse. You might be in theater, right? All of those are good lived experiences that can live on your resume and show what you bring to the table differently than somebody else, right? So what that looks like is just making sure that you're showing up and making it crystal clear. As you can see, I practice and I understand and I can talk about it, and that's on you. Nobody's gonna pull your teeth to say, what makes you great? What makes you different? Nobody is going to pull you. They're going to go on to the next candidate. They're going to go, if you're looking to apply for internships, if you're looking to apply to college, if you're not showing, you're not shining, you're flying. No one's going to do it for you.
For sure, for sure. I was definitely in lots of organizations. I was talking to Jessie off to the side, and I'm like, one thing I didn't really do as much as I wish I did, and I try not to live with regrets, but I didn't get into a true sport. And as an athletic director, as you say, you love sports. It's not just lacrosse. Lacrosse picked you, but you love basketball, you love football, you love all the things, and that is a part of your mission that you want to show young women the importance of it. And it's not just for the physical piece of it, right? It's because so many life lessons come from organized sports. What are some of the life lessons that you pour into your young athletes, and what is one that you really hold on to that was poured into you?
One is athletics and competing is almost like a little world where you're kind of in control and have boundaries, and when the game's over, it's over. And it's like a little life experience, and it prepares you for real life experience. I'm very competitive, very. I'm passionate. I can articulate a vision. All those things I learned through athletics. And all those things translate and correlate into the business world very, very well. You know, I can take the skills that I have as an athlete, whether I stop at high school or go on to play for our U.S. national team. I take those skills and what makes me really good at lacrosse and put it into real estate or put it into being an entrepreneur. So that's why I try to advocate for young women to play sports, because you're gonna learn leadership skills. You're gonna learn how to be a great teammate. You're gonna learn how to communicate with others that maybe you don't have a lot of things in common. And that would happen to me. I step on the field, I don't have a lot of things in the common with the young women I'm playing with, but I was forced to work with them. And that's a workforce. When you have a job, you're not gonna like everybody you work with, but you're gonna have to figure out how to work towards a common goal together and succeed and win that game and then win that game of life. So I try to really push young women to play athletics because it's fun. Who doesn't like to sweat and push, and who doesn't love that? But there's so much more in sports, so.
Definitely always be looking for the lessons. That's one thing, a piece of advice, even though I'm asking the questions, to always be looking for the lessons, because they are in a lot of the things that you do. There's a lesson into why you're here today. You could have just enjoyed your day off and kicked it at home or went to the mall, which I know that's like still a thing. Like, y'all still go to the mall to hang out. That's like so cool, because we love doing that. No money at all. But we were in the mall walking around window shopping. Yeah. I heard y'all got money now. But look for the lessons in everything, because as Casey said, you don't even realize how the lesson, you may not get it today, but 2 years from now, 2 months from now, it could even be just a week from now, you are like, okay, I was supposed to be there because I was thinking about getting into film and television, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where the resources were. So that kind of leads me to you, Thea. Thinking about today's landscape of creativity, TV, film, entertainment, that has always been there. We've always looked to television to see who were the stars, but today in 2023, so many of our stars are on the internet. They are starting as YouTubers, and I know. Raise your hand if you have TikTok. Every single hand, I think. Every single hand, I think, is up in here, other than the parents. The parents' hands are not raised. So I think about, so many people have gone from the creative space, the YouTube space, the social media space, and have been able to have careers now in TV and film. They didn't have to go to Juilliard. They didn't have to start in formal arts training. In your line of work, how much do you see that to be a benefit, that they're getting this kind of early foundational individuality to become actors and actresses right in the living room, right in the dining room? I know I'm not alone where I'm like, can you stop performing for 10 minutes? I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. How are you seeing social media play an impact in TV and film? And what inspiration can you give to the girls that that's possible, even if you don't or can't afford to go to these high-end art schools like School for the Arts or Juilliard?
Oh, absolutely. So you guys are in an amazing time. We did not have TikTok. We did not have Instagram. I doubt we had Twitter back then. So use what you have where you are now. If you want to be an actress, I need to see you on Instagram and TikTok being an actress, you know, reciting things, practicing. If you want to be a fashion model, you need to at least have some footage of you being a fashion model. You know, like walking the runway or whatever. Use what you have, which is a platform. And then another thing that you have there is access. So do research in the careers that you want and reach out to them. And mentorship goes both ways, right? So don't just be like, hey, I just want you to take all these hours out of your busy day to tell me everything that you learned and everything that you know. No. You tell them, I'm an inspiring person, you know, I'm an inspiring blank. This is what I want to do, and this is what I've done so far, and I can help you with social media. You know, you tell an old head like me, I can help you with social media. I'm like, come on, baby, what you want to learn? You know, you can always help someone. Technology is changing. So use what you have where you are, reach out, and start to begin what you want to be. And that's what we'll see. I also use social media because there's a show that I'm casting for now. I can't post about it. I can't say anything about it. So I'm like being a stalker on social media to see who lives this lifestyle, who looks this way, who has an interest in who would be great for this show. But I can't say a word. So if you're already doing those things, not that you want to do it, use it with what you have. And then another resource I want to let all of you ladies know about, which I wish I knew about, is you can be a production assistant on set. As soon as you turn maybe 17 or 18, I'm not sure the age, but it's something called a production assistant. You're not expected to know a daggone thing, and you get paid for it. If you're lucky, you might get $150 to $200 a day, not to know nothing, but just to listen. And when you get on set, you don't try to upstage anybody. You be the captain of the PAs. You know, you learn, and once people like you and trust you, then, you know, they'll hire you again and again. And so, you know, I didn't know about that when I was young. And how do you become a PA? Every city, like even if you go away for college, every city has something called a film office. Reach out to the film office. Let them know, like, hey, I'm interested in volunteering on your film festivals. What's happening? What's filming here? I want to be a PA. I ain't got no, but I don't have any experience or anything like that, but I'm willing to learn. So the internet is a beautiful thing. And film offices, and also another resource is staffmeup.com. As soon as you turn 18, put your resume on there. Look for PA jobs, and you can look from any city or state that you may go to college in. But a production assistant is way better than bartending. I wish I did that instead. So, yeah, that's it.
That is so true. Working in production for many years, being a production assistant, I mean, when you hear the word, at least for me, the title sounds very, very fancy. You know, I'm assisting on some sort of production, and production is broad. It could be a film, it could be a play, it could be an award show. But I know several people who have done PA work, myself included, who are now some of the executives of those very firms, are leaders and directors. So many of the people that you might know as celebrities and filmmakers, they started being production assistants. I just learned recently that Kenya Barris, who is behind so many amazing shows, but probably one of the most popular ones is Blackish. Well, he was a production assistant on the show 227, which probably none of you know what that is, but it was a popular television show in the 90s. And he used to, his primary job was to take scripts to the actors when they were on set to prep for shooting that day. He is now a millionaire and a film director. So being an assistant is not a bad thing. Again, it goes back to that. In order to be a great leader, you have to know how to be a great follower. Casey, you posted recently, you had a beautiful quote, and I wanted to share it. You said that you are only as strong as those around you because they are uplifting you. It makes me think about community. As we talked about on the last panel, support is so incredibly important. You have been on the force for 13 years, but an entrepreneur, a leader, a sergeant for 5. And I know that community has been a really important part of that. And in full transparency, oftentimes there's this adversarial relationship between law enforcement and the youth, or law enforcement and the citizens, when really we are a community. We are a community together. We are only as strong as one another. So what are your suggestions on how the youth can help to uplift those in leadership, those in law enforcement? How can we do a better job at working together, not on the big issues, on the things that matter to them? Fun, protection, safety, as you talk about, that's a big part of what you do logistically with planning. What are your thoughts on uplifting in community?
That's a great question. That's a heavy question. For me, absolutely, community is not just the people that you talk to every day. It's the people that you come across in a room. For me, I always think of opportunities to share and give back in whatever space I'm in. How can I touch somebody today? And a lot of times on the lower entry level, you think, oh, I have nothing to provide. But you do. Your gift is what you hold true and is valuable. And nobody can do you. Nobody. So one of the things that I always challenge people that I come across, whether it's officers that I work with, even my supervisors, you know, we have to answer to somebody. Stop putting people in boxes. Because when we stop putting people in boxes, we let them be organically them. And that's where the magic happens, because what you may need, somebody may have. So when we start to reach out across the aisle and listen to others and see each other for who I organically am or who you are organically, what we bring into the space, that's how we grow. That's how we build. And in everything that we do, and even my team in the office, though I apply 110% pressure, we are going nonstop 110. Sometimes they look at me like, hey, Sarge, you got to slow down. Now, we can't keep up with you, but I'm not going to slow down. Because what I'm doing is inspiring the next person who is watching me that it's possible. It is possible. You can break those barriers. You can lay a new ground. In the space that I am in special events, and yes, my employer is the police department. Special events, a lot of people go to events to have a good time. And you pick up knickknacks and you get to have experiences and you're exposing yourself to different realms. And in the special event space, the joy of it is to see those little light bulbs go off, to see the smiles, because that's what brings us together as a community. We don't go out to festivals and we don't engage with each other. We don't know what's out there. I always harper on a lot of the neighborhood engagement pieces, block parties, summits like this that can bring different walks of life into one room so that we can have those conversations, because a lot of times we just tune into our little world and we don't really see that it's a much broader world. So with that, in everything that you do moving forward, whether it's being that professional student and shadowing somebody, look for ways to reach back and give a handout to somebody else who doesn't know, like, hey, this is what I learned. Did you know? Because by doing that, we create a ripple effect and a domino effect, and it impacts so many more to then inspire somebody else. And if we can plant that seed will eventually grow. I may not see some of the seeds that I plant now in special events world, but I know they'll grow into something great. And hopefully that everybody that's here can take something, a little seed from each of the panelists, and take it and use it as a springboard to get even higher than we are.
Thank you for that. I know when I was a teenager, I could not wait to become an adult. That was such a thing. I was like, I just can't wait to be grown so I could leave this house. I don't have to answer to my mom. I don't have to answer to my grandmother. I can be my own person. I am sure many of you feel the same way. Mom's getting on my nerves. She wants me to do this. Dad wants me to do that. But I'm here to tell you, adulting is a little ghetto, okay? And there are lots of things that my mom and so many members of my family tried to tell me. They tried to warn me that it was a little crazy on this side of things. To the panel, what is a piece of advice that you really wish you knew? Once you became an adult, you've been living as an adult for so many years, you wish that at 15 or 16, you really would have gotten that lesson.
I'll go. So, as a child, I was always outspoken. Now, in retrospect, I believe that I was probably the most ambitious but lazy person you could probably meet, right? So I had so many resources around me. I had parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Half of my family are all entrepreneurs. I was struggling to find my way. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Had I really listened, like you said, to those lessons, those are regrets, right? So had I really listened and tapped into my resources and tapped into my network more, I can only imagine how much further I could be, because being innately ambitious but also lazy made me know that I had to do just enough to make it, right? But if I had tapped more into my resources and tapped more and asked more people to pour into me, because trust me, people are willing to pour into you. People are willing to share their resources. People are willing to grab you and bring you up and help you, right? You have to ask. My grandma always said, and it's another cliche, but they work, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. My mouth was closed a lot. I still ate. I didn't starve. I didn't die. I'm still successful, right? But I can only imagine how much further I could be right now if I really had the mouth to open up and really tap into the resources that were around me and really not be scared or afraid I was famous for shrinking myself in order to fit in spaces because I didn't want to stand out because I was always outspoken. But there were times where being outspoken could have really worked to my advantage a lot more. I could have been networking more, especially in college. I went to school, I showed up, I did what I did, and I got a degree, but I wasn't involved, and I deeply regret that. So if you guys could just take one seed from me, even if it's not about resume writing, if it's not about career coaching, if it's not about interviewing, it's tapping in and maximizing your resources and letting people know what you need. I had conversations with some of you, and you guys were saying you're applying to college and you're doing different things, and some people are saying, oh, I didn't apply to high schools or different high schools. I'm just going to my zone high school because I had an admissions essay and I didn't know where to start. People will help you. You have to ask. If they don't know you're struggling, if your parents don't know you're struggling, they can't help you. They don't know.
Yeah, you definitely have to speak up and ask for the help that you need, even as a non-adult, right? Sometimes you don't feel like you have the room to say, this is really what I would like, this is really what I would like to see happen. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today. Please give them a round of applause. I hope that you all got so much from these two panels. More than anything, be a dreamer, be a leader, be a sponge. Be a sponge. So if there's anyone in the room that may have a question for the panelists, we're going to open it up for a little Q&A. So just raise your hand. We'll make sure we get... I saw a hand kind of sort of go up. Don't be shy. This is a
Remember,
safe
tap
space.
into your resources.
This is a community. You never know. Your question is probably someone else's. And it's open to everyone, not just the attendees, but it's to parents, to anyone in the room that may have questions for the panels. Anybody? Anybody? Don't be scared. Okay. Is your hand all the way? Is it up? Okay. Perfect.
What opportunities in your school career do you think have gotten you farther in life and in your career?
Great question. Yes, it's open to the first panelist as well.
So I think I'm going to jump in there and answer that
Go
one.
ahead, yeah, absolutely.
So you said, great question. So in school, well, I'll give you a little backstory first. My mom served 30 years with the school system. So her perception is, you graduate high school, you go to college, education, 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 which is great. For me, it kind of confused me because then I went to school. I need to get a degree, some degree. I didn't take the time to slow down and figure out what is my gift and what is my passion. So for me in school, I went to school for construction management because my mom, oh, you always like breaking stuff and putting it back together, so you need to go be an engineer. So that's what I went to school for. Once I got into school, I got into a lot of clubs and started to network with other people from other walks of life and started having those conversations. So the most impactful thing for my career now in the special event space and in the public safety space would be to get into clubs, get into, like I said, sports, because those little things that are occupying time so you really can fully evolve and figure out what your passion and what your gift is, you're still learning those life lessons, and it helps you build a strong foundation to build on. Once you do lock into your passion and your gift, it's like a springboard because you already built the foundation. You know how to talk to people. Resume building is critical. So some of those classes that you may think are not even relevant, dive into those and see what you can squeeze out of them. So clubs, sports, and engaging with other people from other walks of life really helped me mold and gave me an upper edge as I got into my career field.
Great question.
Stand up. Yes. Did you ever want to do these things today as a child?
Go ahead, Thea.
I did. I didn't know what. Both of my parents were in the industry. My mom was a music exec for Loud, RCA, EMI. And my dad was a concert promoter back in the day. So if my parents were, I guess, dentists, I probably would want to be the best dentist as well. But I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that I didn't want a traditional desk job, which they are amazing, they are great, and they got steady money. this industry, sometimes you be balling, and then sometimes it's like, hey, what's up? So, yeah, I always felt that I just didn't know how and what steps I would take to get there. Yeah, I actually thought I was going to be Diddy, but that didn't work out, so, yeah.
One thing I'll say, as now a host and a podcaster, that's not what I wanted to be. A podcaster wasn't even a thing when I was a little girl. But I always wanted to use my voice. I always wanted to entertain. And so getting into becoming an adult is what shaped it for me. But there was always a sign of it when I was younger. I loved to perform for my family. I loved to tell jokes. I loved to imitate people. And so it was just a matter of fine-tuning it and figuring out, okay, I won't be a river dancer, as I said earlier, and I will not be a figure skater, which is also something I thought I was going to be. But both of those things are entertainment, and so I work in entertainment, and so it worked out, worked itself out. Shai?
Hi, yes. I wanted to add to that and say, if you are thinking about doing anything, try it. Yes. Try it first. Do it for a little while. I used to do phlebotomy. I went to real estate school. I sold insurance. I was a teacher. What else did I do? I went and got my daycare hours. I mean, I did a little bit of everything, but through all of those different experiences, I networked with people and I learned things about myself. And I know sometimes it's fearful because people are like, what are you going to be when you grow up? Mm-hmm. And it just stops there. Many of us, these are second careers. You can change whatever you're doing at any point. You can literally be doing something for 4 or 5 years, and then another opportunity comes along, and you do it. Because you can always circle back to something that you've seen before, but you'll never know what it would have been like if you never took the chance. So I encourage you, whatever it is you're thinking about doing, if you want to design clothes, do makeup, do nails, do it for a little while. Get some experience and some exposure, and then you can make a really educated decision on saying, well, that wasn't for me. And like I said, you never know who you might meet during that journey that might expose you to something else. And you're like, oh, okay, I want to do that. So that's just the gem that I can say I've learned through life.
Excellent. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, we got a couple over here, right over here.
What's one of your greatest goals in your school life?
So when I was in school, again, going back to me being lazy but ambitious, I was always competitive as well. And one of my goals was to be the best writer in the class. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to measure that. I just knew that if my teacher gave me an A, that means I'm the best, right? That means that I'm doing well. That means that, according to her standards, my writing is good enough to be worthy of an A. So one of my goals was just to really refine what it means to be able to convey a message in a way that so many other people can understand, because that's what we do as writers. We really just take these ideas and we break them down and we dismantle complex concepts and we break them down for wide audiences, right? So my goal was really to just keep pouring into myself, reading. Oh my God, I've read probably a bazillion books in my life, to the point that in my adult life, I can't even read it anymore. It's just too much. But I knew that in order to be a great writer, I had to study great writers. I had to research. I had to read books. I had to read all types of different books in order to really perfect my craft, to be able to adopt different voices, to be able to adopt different tones and speak to different audiences. So that was one of my biggest goals.
That was such a great question from a young man. So thank you very much. You have an answer to that?
Yeah, I have an answer. So I went to a predominantly white high school, and they never had a black Miss Catholic High. So my senior year, I was like, oh, I want to change that. And so for me, I was like, everybody was like, you're crazy. They're not going to pick you. And I was like, I'll change that. So what I did, if you wanted to join a club, if you wanted to step, you had to go through me. By the time I walked into the school to my senior year, not only was I president of cultural awareness, but I created a step team. I created every relationship that you wanted if you wanted to be anything that you wanted to be at the school. So by the time, it was no way for me to deny or for them to deny me Miss Catholic High. But in disbelief, I was sitting on a stage, I was sitting across, they were valedictorians of the class, and that year was my first year of straight A's, and barely an A. But I was like, okay, they're probably not gonna pick me. I was ready for defeat, and I heard my name. And everybody was like, what? I heard what in the stage? And you try through relationships, through trying, through building. There are relationships that will take you further with grit and just knowing that it's yours already.
We have another question. We have one here, right here in the black. Oh, one all the way at the top. We'll get you on the way back down.
Hi, my name is Ashley Devon, and we brought a lot of, well, I'm observing there are a lot of middle school students. Hi, my name is Ashley Devon Johnson, and I'm observing there are quite a few middle school students in here, 6th to 8th grade. Maybe I think some of the oldest I've seen is up to 10th grade. I would love to hear about some of the choices that you all made in middle school that helped you deal with peer pressure and bullying. That's one question. And then the second question that I have is, as we focus on leadership skills and that intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, the things that motivated you and the outside forces that motivated you, what were some of those things that helped motivate you when you were in middle school? So how did you deal with peer pressure and bullying? And then the second question is, what were the motivators for you in middle school?
Carolyn.
Okay. Well, in high school, not so much in middle school, because I went to a very small middle school, but in high school I was teased often because I had Coke bottle glasses, I had big old hair I didn't know what to do with. And to be honest, I kind of just went to the beat of my own drum. I found my tribe. I found people who were quirky just like me, who liked drama, who also liked basketball. And I think because of the type of family I came from, everyone cracked a joke in my family. So I guess I had a little bit of a tougher shell when it came to being teased, but I knew I was being teased. And I think what I found to be the most important thing to hold on to was that I love me. God has my back. My family has my back. If I need to take it there, my daddy gonna come up to the school. But, you know, I always felt that I have to listen to my heart. And if I really did have a problem, I had a very supportive school system as well. I went to my teachers if anything came up, which really didn't happen like in a big, bad way. But go to your teachers, speak to your counselors. Don't be afraid to open your mouth. And just be true to yourself no matter what. Don't change for anybody else's perspective. And find your own way, because by the time I graduated high school, the same people who were teasing me for my Coke bottle glasses and my hair were asking me how did I get dressed that day for whatever tag day we had. I was fly because I stuck to myself and my own spirit. So once you find that, no one can take you off of that. And if you want to take it further, talk to your family and your friends and your teachers about therapy as well if you feel like you need a little bit more honing in onto that strength, okay? And if y'all have any issues, come up to me after this so we can talk about who's doing that to y'all in school. I'll come up there.
Love it. We have a question here in the black.
Hi, my name is Kaylin Ryan, and I want to ask, who inspired you guys to do the things you guys do in life?
I mean, I have some personal inspirations. My mom has inspired me, I would say, the most personally. Although my mother was a blue-collar worker, she retired from her job of 30 years, only making probably $30,000, $40,000, which today that's just not enough money. I have no idea how she was taking care of us. So that inspiration, what I get from her is the hard work. And also the hard work coupled with beauty. My mom, although she was a blue-collar worker, she drove a clamp operating truck, which is like a forklift. It's not cute. It's not pretty. Majority of her coworkers were men. My mother always wore blouses and lipstick, and she did her hair. She was the prettiest person at this factory. And so I'm so inspired by that with her. And then professionally, I mean, there's so many. Oprah, I think, is an inspiration to so many. But as a person who interviews people and talks to people. I would say Oprah's probably one of my biggest inspirations, but there's so many. You all are inspirations. It's you standing up with so much confidence, saying your name, exactly who you are, and asking your questions so confidently. So I get a lot of inspiration from my nieces and god kids that are your age as well.
I'm just going to say that be inspired by yourself. Like, just do you. When I was in school, in middle school, I was a tomboy. I didn't dress up, those type of things. But something clicked when I went to high school. I started wanting to look a particular way. And so I started dressing and doing things that made me feel comfortable with me. Like, I knew I was coming to this event, so I decided that I was going to make this dress. So I made the pattern, and then I made the dress, and it took me about 8 hours to do it. But this is something from many years of perfecting my craft. So years ago, it may have taken me 2 weeks. But, you know, now doing it over and over and constant and not worrying about what somebody else is going to think, like how am I going to feel? So you got to think like that. Be inspired by what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, and not worry about others.
And I'm going to add a slight caveat to being inspired. Don't limit yourself by just people in the field that you think that you want to do. For me, it's weird. I actually am inspired by the head groundskeeper at Camden Yards, Oriole Park. I'm a big baseball fan. I love the O's. And she's one of the first women groundskeeper in the MLB. And how I translate that, okay, what does it have anything to do with special events or being a cop? Well, with that, she inspires me because she's the first woman in an all-male dominated field. And that grass looks good. The lines are perfectly straight. But she inspires me because now in my field, I'm the only one woman that's been able to get to this level in special events field in my department. So now, you know, you can look for that connection in anything. So you look around in your circle and the people that you're around, because I'm pretty sure you can pull for inspiration from anybody.
We have, okay, so we don't have time for more questions. I'm so sorry, but they were so good. And here's the thing. They're not going anywhere. We still have a little bit of time, so we will be able to mix and mingle. So you'll be able to pick their brains, make sure you connect with them on social media. Again, ladies, thank you. Thank you for your time today. I so appreciate you. And thank you all for the great, great questions. Don't leave, because we do have someone coming out to see you, someone very, very special. So just sit tight. Right, so we do have someone very special. It is with so much pleasure and honor for me to introduce to some, but to reacquaintance to others, my mayor, your mayor, Mayor Brandon Scott. So good to see you. Of course. Good.
Oh, I get to sit down?
You get to sit down.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Chair.
What? I don't need nothing. I'm good.
Welcome and thank you for making time for the beautiful young ladies, which I know women in general are so important to you.
Absolutely.
I want to start with asking you about why the youth are so important to you. I know that might seem like an obvious question, but for them in the room, I want them to hear from your mouth to their ears why they matter to you and why these types of efforts are so important to you.
Well, I guess first let me say good afternoon, ladies, young ladies. I hope you all had a phenomenal day, and thank you all for being here and joining us. But it's a very simple question and a simple answer. For me, being a young man, a young black man who grew up here in Baltimore, surrounded by other young black women and young black men, right? I know how it is to live in a city where I'm not seen or valued, where I'm just treated like something that we should hide or put away and that we shouldn't invest in. But I know when I see these young ladies, when I look in their eyes, when I see their counterparts' eyes, I see a future for Baltimore that's brighter than we've ever seen. So as I always say, to me, our young people are our greatest asset and resource, and we have to pour into each and every one of them to make sure they grow to be the best version of themselves. And whoever's controlling the heat, please turn it down, because I know they hot in here.
Who they grow to be is so important. And speaking of who they grow to be, you have been, I would say, just in the years that I've lived in Baltimore, which is practically my entire life, I've never seen so many women specifically be appointed to very important positions in the mayor's office. Looking around this room, these are some of the future women that will lead our city. Why is that so important to you to make sure that women are in office and making change and having impact on our city?
Mike is telling me something's wrong with the mic. What's wrong? Oh, that way? All right, cool. Thank you, Mike. I guess I'll be very simple. And sorry, men, but the truth is that for me and my experience, especially growing up here in Baltimore, if you want to win, you got to go with women, and black women in particular, right?
That's right. I was going to say that deserves.
That's the truth. But also, and I always challenge men and black men in particular on this note, because we know that black women are the most exploited, the most disrespected, the most every negative word you can think human or creature on the planet. It's our job to do the opposite, to lift them up and put them in places and put them in spaces and stand up for them and protect them and make sure that people see them for what they are and what you are, right? Well, you all as young women and young black women in particular are literally the descendants of the women who create the civilization. That's the reality. That's the truth. So for me, I feel like it's my duty, because I know, and also for me, being the grandson of two strong black women, one who literally worked her whole entire life on a pig farm in rural North Carolina and only was able to go to school up until like 7th or 8th grade, right? And then to see my mom's mom, my grandmother who passed away in 2020, leave from rural Virginia and come here and work as an administrator for Sears for all these many years, but never could go above that role. I now personally take it on as something that I want to put black women in positions and women in positions that my mom, my grandmoms never got to be.
Awesome. And my last question to you: you are a young leader, and you've been
Youngish.
When you were really young, you were always a leader. You were always a leader. Give them, if you could wrap it up in one sentence, what is the one thing that helped push and propel you to be a leader, a strong leader, but a leader that was also effective?
Yeah, it was very simply, if you want to be a leader, you have to be uncomfortable. You can't continue to surround yourselves with people that only look like you, that think like you, that like the same things as you, that like the same music, whatever it is. If you want to grow in leadership, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and be around people and be in places and spaces where people don't think like you, because that's how you evolve, or as they simply say, iron sharpens iron.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, for joining us today.
That was it? You got no more? Can they ask questions?
They can ask questions.
I guess I'm the boss. Yes, y'all can ask questions.
He said what he said.
Mike forwards the question, Mike.
Somebody, no, not one of the women. One of the men come get the mic and do some work for a change.
Any fellas want to volunteer?
Lindsay, where you at? There we go.
Right here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right at the top, she had a question.
And please just tell me your name and if you in your school.
My name's Rania, and I go to Bliss.
Hey.
What's your favorite color?
Oh. Easy enough. There's a certain color in the world of colors called Mervo blue. That's my favorite color. As you can see, I have it on my shoes right now.
Anybody else? We had another question right here, and we'll work our way down.
Hi, my name is Kaylin. I go to Mervo.
Hey.
My question is, what's one thing that you feel like was stopping you from keep going?
Nothing. Nothing's going to stop me from keep going. There is absolutely nothing in the world that's going to stop me. So my staff will tell you, when people say bad things about me, or when people, send crazy racist messages and say that they're going to hang me or kill me, that actually inspires me to be more, because no one says bad things about people who aren't doing anything. Let me be very clear, right? Right? Or as they used to say, if you don't have haters, you ain't popping. But also for me, I always think about you all in that. So every hard, crazy, tough thing that I have to go through, if I do it and make it through it, that means that they're going to have to try something new on y'all. They're not going to be able to do the same things because you'll know that I've been able to push through that. So nothing. And the only thing that can stop you from achieving your dreams or being whatever you want to be, young ladies, is you. No one else can stop you.
Hello, my name is Crystal. I go to Western High School.
Hey.
And the question,
Hey, Dove.
the question I have is, how do you deal with the negativity you get from like the world and the people that you surround yourself with?
Well, I try not to surround myself with negative people. We'll start there. But from the world, when you're in a position like mine, right, you have to come into it knowing that a lot of people think that like being the mayor of a large city is like, oh, you're going to be doing press conferences and you're going to be taking pictures with people and be on the internet, right, and be on TV. That's about that much of the job, right? Most of it is hard stuff. It's making hard decisions. It's deciding like, oh, you know, we're getting less money from the state and federal government than we thought we were going to get. So what are we going to cut? What are we not going to do this year for people that we did last year? Or having to be the person who is telling parents or kids that their mother or their son or daughter is not coming home, right? Though that's the truth about what it is to be the CEO of a $3 billion entity that happens to be a city government. So for me, you have to come into it knowing, right? No matter what I do, I could go on Instagram right now and say I'm giving everybody in the city $1 million. And the first 7 comments are going to be, why isn't it 1.5 million, right? That's the reality.
Everyone doesn't deserve $1 million.
Yeah, but they get the point. But when you're in leadership, right, you're not in leadership because you want to be liked, right? You want to be respected for your dedication to doing the right thing, right? As I always say, not the popular thing, the right thing. Because more times than not, the right thing isn't the thing that everyone likes. Right? The right thing is hard sometimes. When your parent told you you shouldn't do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, you knew it was the right thing, but you and your siblings and your friends, y'all wanted to do it anyway because everyone else thought that was the right thing to do. True leaders always do the right thing, and you can't care about whether people are mad about you. Perfect example before I go to the next question. The first thing that I did when I came into office was tell everyone to go home and don't come back outside until I said you could come back outside because of COVID. That wasn't very popular. People called me everything. I had a party scheduled at the club. I want to go to the mall. I want to go to the movies. I can't do this. I can't do that. Right? They were angry. But I simply would turn to people and say, well, the one thing that you have to be in order to be angry at me about keeping you alive is that you have to be alive. That's the truth.
My name is Danielle Mpoko. I go to Hempstead Hill Academy, and my question is, who inspires you to keep on pushing to go further and further, even if you made it to the top? Like, how do you keep on pushing?
Well, I ain't made it to the top yet. I'm close, but I haven't made it to the top. So I wanted to be mayor when I was like 5 years old. And what I would say to you is that a couple things keep me going. One, I always say this, and not just saying because y'all here, it's the young people. You guys are where I get my energy. There are 2 ladies over to the left that control my life, meaning they control my calendar, and they are very wise about putting me when they know I'm going to be having like a real bad day or I got hard decisions or like I've had like 6 or 7 hard days in a row. They always set it up where I'm going to be around young people because they know that's going to lift my spirits up. So you all are really the thing that helps me push through. And then also, I know about where I came from, right? I know the history of who I am, what my family went through, and all of that. And I cannot allow some minuscule things in the grand scheme of the world that people say and do to stop me from taking that legacy to the next level. Because this isn't about me. It's about all of us. It's about the city. It's about people that look like me and being able to be in these kind of positions.
Hi, my name is Sharday Felke. I go to Booker T. Washington Middle School for the Arts. My question is, when you were in school, how did you overcome or become, well, not that, but how did you deal with boy drama?
Oh, I didn't have boy drama. I had girl drama. Uh-oh. You said 4 more questions? 5? 6? So y'all see where I'm going with this, don't you? How did I deal with girl drama? Sheesh. It depends on the situation. I tried to stay out of drama, right? I was always trying to be a drama-free person. But the way that I always tried to deal with it was, like, I always tried to be open and honest with people, right? Sometimes they might not like that. And one particular time is one of my employees who went to high school with me knows that ended up with me getting my window busted because I was honest. I could have lied, right? But, like, I wasn't going to do that. But I think for you all, like, what complicates that is that everything that you do, everyone sees on social media. And what I would say to you all about that is that you have to be operating in a sense of honesty, but also now you guys have to figure out ways to protect yourselves and your private lives from the rest of the world. Because the things that you put there, they're never going to go away, right? But it's also, you know, especially now, people are really hurting. Even more so after the pandemic, in the mental sense, whatever you do and say on there, it doesn't just impact you. It impacts everybody you're connected to and around and you have to figure out ways to kind of tamp that drama down and resolve our conflicts in a different way, because we know people are dying on our streets over boy and girl drama, and we should be able to move on from someone to the next person without that happening. But it's going to be really encompassing on all of us, especially you all, to start to resolve those conflicts in different ways. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Terry Neville Harris, and I go to Chesapeake High and Solars Point for baking and pastry. And my question is, what 3 virtues do you think are most important to instill in this young generation of women so that they can get farther in life with a better mindset?
I would say, great one. I would say determination would be the first one, right? You all have to be determined that you're going to make it to where you want to go. Because I could want the world for you. If you're not determined or don't want that for yourself, then it doesn't matter. The second one I will say is patience. Because anything worth having is not going to come quick and it's not going to come easy. You're going to have to be patient in that. And I know that's hard in the world where literally everything comes so quick. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, I'm hungry. Let me order it. Oh, I need some groceries. I have to go to the grocery store. It'll come in an hour, right? Like, it's hard. And the last thing that I think that we have to expand upon really is love, right? And that's for each other. Looking at each other not as competition, but looking at each other as sisters, as one, as a connected group of people who will literally, as my high school track coach at Mervo would say, will only succeed as the lowest one of you succeeds. So if the weakest link in the chain is struggling, the whole chain's broken. And that's what I would think that we need to do for you all. Okay. Come on, I got 2 more. Because they told me 1 more. So I said 2 more.
My name is Jaden, and I go to Western. Looking back, what is some advice you would have gave your past self?
Oh, my. So I'll give you 2 things that I would have said to my younger self. If I was talking to myself between the ages of 18 and 20, 21, 22, so I came to City Hall at 23. I'll be 39 in 2.5 weeks, so I've been in City Hall a long time now. I would say to my 18 to 22-year-old self, I would say, save my money, right? So if you guys go back and look and Google like the early 2000s, we spent a lot of money on ridiculous clothes. So I still have them actually. Imagine being a college student who's making, I was a DJ too, so I made a little bit more money than most college students, but I was making like $1,000 like every 3 weeks or something crazy like that, but then going out and buying a $300 football jersey. Right? I would never do that again. And then having a hat and tennis shoes to match every single one of them. It's one of the most idiotic things that I've ever done in my life. So that's the first thing that I would do. And a little younger than that, and this is something that I still struggle with too. I've always been a person like to help people, but I now feel like there were some of my friends who I should have pulled in closer that I pushed away, right? And a couple of them are not here anymore. So those, I would say, like, pull them in closer. I know they were annoying, but pull them in closer is what I would do if I had the chance to do it again. Who has the last question?
My name is Dylan, and I go to Newtown, and my question is, what inspires you to keep doing what you do?
All right, well, we'll get another one because I answered that. It's y'all. Very simple. Go over there. Yeah, go over to the school of the state champs.
Hi, my name is Sanaya.
Hi, Sanaya.
I'm repping Emerson Westside. And my question to you is, what inspired you to put yourself out there into your community and inspire others?
Oh, great. It's a great question, ma'am. Thank you for that. So everyone knows that I grew up here in Baltimore. So I grew up in Park Heights in the 80s and 90s. And to be quite honest, that's what inspired me. The first time, unfortunately, that I saw someone get shot, I was like 6 or 7 years old. And no one cared, pretty much, right? Like me and my friends had to jump in the bushes and all this crazy stuff because someone was shooting at somebody. And I was pestering my mom and my dad about, like, why no one cared about our neighborhood, right? Like, why it was okay for at that time. If you think Park Heights is off the hook now, you have no idea what it was like in the 90s, right? It's like peaceful town compared to then now. But that's what pushed me. And, you know, my mom just calmly looked at me one day and said, like, well, if you want to change, you're going to have to change it. No one coming to save you. No one coming to save our neighborhood. So from that day on, basically, I made it my mission to start trying to help my community. I did that as a young man, as a student, cleaning up in the neighborhood, cutting grass on the vacants. As I started in student government, I was on the SIT team at Merville. I was the president of the Black Student Union at St. Mary's. When I came home from college, the only job that I had before coming to City Hall, I ran mentoring programs in schools, and then I came to City Hall as a staffer because I knew what I wanted to be, right? Like, if you want to be the best basketball player, you go play basketball. If you want to be the best baker, you go and learn from people that bake. So that's what brought me to City Hall, because the best thing for me in life to be is someone who puts into their community. Because who better? Who better than someone who had to live through what we all have to live through in the city to start to work to correct and change it? And do that in a way knowing that there is no way that in 4 years or 8 years, voters willing that I'm going to fix every single thing that's been wrong with Baltimore for 100 years, right? It's not going to happen. That's just a reality. But somebody has to be the person that starts to lay the foundation of how we can be a better city, right? So the way I look at it is that if we're building a new Baltimore from the ground up, I'm the person that's putting the bricks at the bottom, the foundation. One of you is going to be the person that puts the shiny thing on the top. But what equally as important, because if you put the shiny thing on the top and the foundation is broken, guess what? We're going to be building another new city. So thank you for that question. And thank you all, ladies.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. The 3 virtues you gave to her, determination, patience, and love, represents you so well. Thank you for organizing this event and supporting our young ladies. Let's give him another round of applause.